Imagine for a moment a world without our modern forensics. I mean, no DNA, no fingerprints, none of that.
Right.
How do you find the truth? Especially when it's just accusations.
Yeah, how do you prove something?
Now, picture an ancient courtroom. Maybe not even a courtroom, but a sacred space. And the verdict. It doesn't come from a judge or jury.
No.
It comes, supposedly, straight from the divine, triggered by just taking a drink of water.
It's quite a concept, isn't it? This idea of immediate cosmic justice.
It's profound and, honestly, a bit terrifying. Humanity's always searched for truth, for justice, but the ways they went about it, sometimes pretty breathtaking.
And that's exactly where we're heading today. We're doing a deep dive into one of the most, well, frankly, enigmatic rituals from ancient texts.
Okay.
The ordeal of the bitter waters. It's described in the Book of Numbers.
Bitter waters. Right.
And this isn't just some dry legal thing. It's fascinating. It's where faith, psychology, and some pretty dramatic physical reactions all collide.
Okay, so let's lay out the mission for you. Listen, what are we trying to do here?
Yeah. Well, first, we want to really unpack the details. What exactly was this Israelite ritual, step by step?
Got it. The how-to, almost.
Sort of, yeah. Second, we need to explore the effects. The texts describe some really striking things happening to the person. Vivid stuff.
Okay, the supposed consequences.
Exactly. And finally, we'll broaden out. Because this idea, the power of sacred words, substances you ingest, it wasn't unique.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. We'll see similar beliefs pop up in a surprising number of places. Think Far East, Africa. It's quite widespread.
Interesting. So we've got sources for this.
We do. We'll be leaning heavily on Richard Preschel's analysis, the ordeal of the bitter waters, ancient justice, and sacred rituals. He really gets into the biblical and rabbinic details.
Okay.
And then for the comparative stuff, we'll bring in James Fraser's classic work, Folklore in the Old Testament. He connects a lot of dots.
That sounds good. So prepare yourselves, everyone. This might just change how you think about ancient justice, maybe even belief itself. All right, let's set the scene. Ancient Israel. You have this really difficult situation. A husband suspects his wife. Infidelity.
A deeply serious accusation in that society. Honor, lineage, community purity, all on the line.
Exactly. But here's the kicker. There's no proof, no witnesses, nothing concrete, just suspicion, gnawing suspicion.
A classic dilemma. What do you do when you feel something is wrong but you can't prove it?
So who steps in?
The priest. He acts as the intermediary, the one who facilitates this appeal to the divine, and that's where the ritual begins.
The ordeal of the bitter waters.
Precisely. And the components are laid out pretty clearly in Numbers chapter 5, verse 17.
Okay, what does it say?
It says the priest takes holy water in an earthenware vessel, probably water from the laver, the kior, in the tabernacle courtyard, sacred stuff.
Right, holy water. Makes sense.
And then he adds dust that is on the floor of the tabernacle. Simple enough, right? Water and dust.
Seems almost mundane in a way. Sacred, but basic elements.
But here's the really crucial part, the part that elevates it. The priest writes curses onto a scroll.
What kind of curses?
Curses specifically about infidelity, about the consequences if she is guilty.
Okay.
And then this is the key. He washes the scroll in the water. The ink dissolves. The words literally dissolve into the mixture.
Wait, so she's not just drinking water and dust?
No. She's drinking the words, the literal, dissolved, inscribed words of the curse. Think about that. Internalizing the judgment itself.
That's incredibly powerful imagery.
Yeah.
Drinking the words. Wow.
It really is. And the oath wasn't quiet either. It was public. Formal.
Designed to ramp up the pressure, I imagine.
Absolutely. Numbers 5.21 gives the priest's exact words. May the Lord make you a curse and an oath among your people when the Lord makes your thigh waste away and your belly swell.
Oof. Direct. No mincing words there.
None at all. It's a public challenge. An invocation of divine power to physically manifest the truth. Imagine standing there hearing that.
Terrifying. Your own body becoming the evidence.
And what's really unique about this whole commandment, something Ramban Nachmanides pointed out, is that it's the only one in the entire Torah that explicitly demands a miracle.
The only one.
Yeah.
Out of all the laws.
The only one requiring direct supernatural intervention for its outcome. Most laws are about what people should do. Obey this, perform that ritual.
Right, human action.
But this one, it puts the burden entirely on God to show the truth. Physically, undeniably.
Which also makes it the only real ordeal like the ones found in other ancient cultures, right? Within the Torah, I mean.
Exactly. It stands alone in that regard. It's distinct from the rest of the legal framework.
Okay, so we have the setup. The accusation, the priest, the water, the dust, the terrifying dissolved curses. Now, let's get into the effects. This is the part I find absolutely gripping. What did the text say would happen if she was guilty?
Well, the core description is in Numbers 5.27. It's pretty direct and physical.
Let's hear it.
When he has made her drink the water, then if she has defiled herself, the water that brings the curse will enter into her to become bitter, and her belly will swell, and her thigh will waste away.
Swell and waste away. Very specific physical changes.
Incredibly specific, and it doesn't stop there, and the woman will be a curse among her people.
So physical torment and social ruin. An outcast. Mark.
Absolutely. A complete destruction, body, and social standing.
And the later rabbinic tradition, did it add more detail?
Oh, yes. The Mishnah from around the 2nd century CE really fleshes it out, makes it even more immediate, more graphic, frankly.
Where can we find that?
Tractate Soda, chapter 3, Mishnah 3. It says, as soon as she begins to drink, so right away.
Okay, instantly.
That's the implication. Her face turns yellow, her eyes protrude, and her veins swell.
Whoa. Yellow face, bulging eyes, swollen veins. That's incredibly visual, like something out of a horror description.
It is. Imagine the scene. The tension is already unbearable. She takes a sip, and supposedly, bam, these symptoms appear. Publicly. Undeniably.
No room for doubt left in anyone's mind.
That seems to be the intent. A shocking, immediate, grotesque confirmation of guilt. Divine judgment made visible.
And I heard the Midrash takes it even further. Another layer of interpretation.
That's right. Bamidbar Rabbah, an ancient commentary on Numbers, it goes, let's say, even more colorful.
How so?
Chapter 9, section 21, it describes it like this. If she was white, she would turn black. If she was green, she would turn red.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Complete color changes.
That's the description. Dramatic, almost fantastical transformations. And there's more.
What else?
Her mouth would produce a foul odor, her neck would swell, she would suffer from gonorrhea, she would feel swollen and sluggish.
Gonorrhea. They specify that. And foul odor, swelling. It's just a complete physical breakdown.
It's a horrifying list, isn't it? Sensory overload, foul smells, visible swelling, specific diseases, general malaise, total bodily degradation, designed to shock, shame, and utterly condemn.
So we have these incredibly detailed, dramatic, frankly terrifying descriptions of physical effects. But how?
Exactly. That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Because as Preschel points out, the water itself is chemically harmless.
Just water, dust, and a bit of ink.
Right. No poison. Nothing that would naturally cause a belly to swell, a thigh to waste, skin to turn yellow or black, or induce gonorrhea.
So for these effects to happen,
it really requires one of two things. Either a genuine, direct miracle from God intervenes.
Okay, divine intervention.
Or an extraordinary psychosomatic suggestion.
You mean like a placebo effect, but in reverse? A nocebo effect.
Precisely. The power of the mind. Imagine the intense fear, the guilt if she was guilty, the public pressure, the belief in divine punishment. Could that overwhelming psychological state actually trigger the body to manifest these symptoms?
The mind making the body sick based on belief and fear.
It's a fascinating possibility. It really speaks to how powerful the mind-body connection was understood to be even then. Could belief literally reshape the body in such dramatic ways?
But there was a catch, wasn't there? Something about the husband.
Ah, yes. A very important point. It adds a layer of, well, moral complexity or perhaps fairness.
What was it?
It comes from the Babylonian Talmud, Tractate Soda 47b. They're interpreting a phrase in Numbers 5.31. The man shall be free from iniquity.
Okay, the husband needs to be blameless.
Exactly. Rabbi Eliezer's interpretation is key. If you are scrupulous with yourselves, the water will test your wives. Otherwise, it will not test your wives.
So if the husband was also guilty, of infidelity perhaps,
then the ordeal wouldn't work. The divine mechanism, whatever it was, wouldn't activate. His own moral impurity would nullify the test.
That's actually profound. It prevents a guilty husband from using this sacred ritual as a weapon against maybe an innocent wife.
Precisely. It's a safeguard, a divine check and balance. Justice required clean hands from the accuser, too, it seems. It wasn't just a mechanical test of the wife.
So given all this drama, these terrifying effects, the conditions, did many women actually go through this? Do we know?
That's the thing. Despite the incredibly vivid descriptions, we don't really know how often it was performed or if women routinely suffered these exact effects, which suggests its primary purpose might have been something else.
Like what? A deterrent.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The sheer psychological terror of the whole process, the accusation, the curses, the potential public horror, was likely designed to pressure the woman into confessing before drinking.
Ah, confession avoids the ordeal itself.
Right. And a confession, according to the sources, allowed for divorce, but under conditions that were very favorable to the husband.
So the threat of the ordeal was perhaps more potent than the ordeal itself, a tool to force a resolution.
It seems very likely, a coercive path to what was considered truth, or at least a legal resolution.
Now, this whole idea of an ordeal, it feels so alien to us now. But you mentioned it wasn't unique to the Israelites.
Not at all. Ordeals, as shocking as they seem to us, were actually pretty common in antiquity, a way to seek divine judgment when human evidence failed.
Right, and they persisted for a long time, didn't they? Even into medieval Europe.
They did. Though it's worth noting, the church eventually moved against them. The Fourth Lateran Council in 1215 formally condemned and effectively abolished judicial ordeals in Europe. Canon 19.
So even powerful institutions eventually saw the problems with them.
Yes, but before that, they were widespread. And we see parallels in other ancient legal systems.
Like where?
Mesopotamia, for example. The Code of Hammurabi has something related to suspected adultery. Law 132.
What did it say?
If a wife was accused but not caught in the act, for her husband she shall plunge into the river. A trial by water.
Plunge into the river. How did that work?
Simple, brutal logic. She was guilty if she sank, innocent if she floated.
Sank or floated? Wow, that's starkly different.
And that brings us back to Preschel's crucial distinction. The Torah's bitter water was, in its substance, physically harmless.
Right, it needed the miracle or the psychosomatic effect.
Exactly. Contrast that with Hammurabi's river ordeal, or trials by fire, or poison ordeals found in parts of Africa, or trial by combat in medieval Europe. Those were obviously physically harmful.
They relied on direct physical danger. Drowning, burning, poison.
Yes. The outcome was tied to surviving a direct physical threat. The bitter waters ordeal was unique in its reliance on something else, something internal, divine, or psychological, not just brute physics.
Okay, but there was that tricky theological issue with preparing the water, right? Something about God's name.
Yes, a really profound challenge. To make the water, the priest had to write the curses, which included the divine name, the tetragrammaton, YHWH, onto the scroll.
And then wash it off, erasing the name.
Exactly, and erasing the divine name is a serious prohibition. It's derived from Deuteronomy 12.4, listed by Maimonides as a negative commandment. You just don't do it.
So how could they do it here?
Well, there's a principle that sometimes a positive commandment can override a negative one, like doing work on Shabbat for a circumcision.
Okay, specific exceptions.
But the Talmud suggests the priests were still very reluctant to erase the name for this ordeal. It was a huge step.
What does that reluctance imply?
It implies that if they got to that point, if they actually committed to erasing the name, there was no turning back. The ordeal had to proceed. It was inevitable that the woman suspected of adultery would drink the preparation.
The act of erasing the name itself raised the stakes immensely.
Absolutely. It signaled the ultimate gravity of the situation, justifying this extreme measure.
And going back to the water itself, you mentioned it wasn't actually bitter.
Right. Commentators like Rashi and Ramban say the water itself tasted normal. It only became bitter, supposedly, if the woman drinking it was guilty.
Which again points away from a physical cause and towards something else, miracle or mind.
Exactly. It reinforces that central mystery.
So how did this practice eventually stop?
Well, formally, the Mishnah says Rabbi Yohanan ben Zakkai abolished it, likely after the temple's destruction.
Okay.
But practically speaking, it couldn't really be performed after the first temple was destroyed, and certainly not after the second, because the ritual required specific things. Holy water from the kior, the laver, and dust from the tabernacle. The portable sanctuary.
And those weren't available later.
The second temple was different. It didn't have the original tabernacle components, not that specific laver. Without the essential ingredients mandated by the law, the ritual couldn't be performed correctly. History itself made it obsolete.
So the practice faded due to historical circumstances as much as anything else.
It seems so. The physical requirements couldn't be met.
Okay, so that covers the bitter waters ordeal in Israelite context. But you mentioned this core idea, ingesting words or power, wasn't unique.
Far from it. This is where Fraser's work, Folklore in the Old Testament, becomes incredibly useful. He digs into comparative practices.
In that chapter, The Bitter Water.
Exactly. He shows how this concept of drinking inscribed power, for good or bad, shows up all over the world. It really makes you think about common human patterns of belief.
Okay, so give us some examples. Was there anything quite like the punitive aspect of the bitter waters?
There was one example Fraser found that's remarkably close in its punitive intent. In Japan.
Japan. What did they do?
If someone was accused of a crime, they had to drink water where paper inscribed with mysterious characters had been macerated, basically dissolved.
Similar to washing off the scroll.
Very similar mechanism, and the belief that this infused water would torment the accused in their entrails until they confessed their crime.
Torment in the entrails until confession. That sounds incredibly close to the physical suffering described in Numbers.
It's the only example Fraser gives where the ingested water is specifically meant to cause suffering and force a confession, a direct punitive parallel.
Fascinating. But you said most other examples were beneficial.
Overwhelmingly so, yes.
Yeah.
Which is interesting in itself. The same core belief written words hold power that can be transferred by ingestion, but usually applied for healing, protection, or influence.
Like a global tour of magical potions made from words.
You could almost put it like that. Let's take Senegambia. In West Africa, there, traditional doctors or holy men write verses from the Quran on a wooden board, sacred words.
Right.
Then they rinse the board, collect the water, the ink, the essence of the words now in the water, and give this infusion to patients.
To drink.
Yes. The belief is they literally absorb the blessed influence of the sacred words for healing, a direct transfer of holiness into the body.
Amazing. What about other places?
Morocco offers a personal application. Love charms.
Love charms you drink?
Apparently so. A charm written on paper, immersed in water, the water given, maybe secretly, to the person you desire. The hope, the ingested charm makes them love you back.
Wow. Using sacred writing, or at least charmed writing, for romance, that's something else.
It shows the breadth of belief in this transfer method. It wasn't just about high-stakes justice or healing major illness.
And Egypt. You mentioned Egypt earlier.
Yes, a very common practice there for healing. Write Quranic passages inside an earthenware cup. Add water, swirl it to erase the text, dissolve the ink, then give the water to the patient.
Same principle again.
Exactly. The belief is that the sacred words and all their beneficial effect transfer from the cup via the water into the patient, drinking the cure, literally.
It's so consistent across cultures. What about further east? Tibet.
Tibet had similar methods for disease, sometimes quite direct, just eating a paper on which a charm has been written.
Eating the paper itself.
Yep. Or a more refined method, Fraser notes. Reflect the charm's writing in a mirror, wash the mirror, and drink the washing water.
Reflecting it first. That adds another symbolic layer. Transferring the image, then the essence.
It does. Still the same core idea.
Yeah.
Get the power of the writing inside the person.
In China, did they have similar practices?
Absolutely. Charms for the sick were common, sometimes written on leaves that will then be infused in a liquid, combining the text's power with the leaf's properties.
Okay.
Other times written on paper that will then be burned and reduced to ashes.
Burned? But then how?
The ashes, believed to still hold the charm's power, were mixed into a drink for the patient to swallow. Fire, ash, ingestion, a whole transformative process.
That's incredible. The ingenuity is amazing. Vietnam, too.
Yes, Vietnam had specific symbols used by priests for different ailments, like a symbolic language for healing.
So different symbols for different problems.
Right. For colic, for instance, symbols written in red letters on yellow paper, burned, ashes into cold water, drink.
Red on yellow for colic.
For other issues, maybe red paper, black signs, the colors might change, but the belief in the effectiveness of the cure through ingestion remained the same. The power was in the symbol and the act.
So when you pull all this together, Israel, Japan, Senegambia, Morocco, Egypt, Tibet, China, Vietnam, what's the big takeaway for us listening?
Well, the truly striking thing is this incredibly consistent, widespread belief across vastly different cultures. Belief in the intrinsic power of written words, sacred texts, symbols.
Not just as information, but as actual force.
Exactly. And the belief that you could transfer that force for judgment, healing, love, whatever, by dissolving it and ingesting it, physically taking it into the body.
It says something pretty fundamental about how humans have viewed the connection between the spiritual, the linguistic, and the physical.
I think it does. It suggests a deep, maybe even primal understanding, or at least intuition, about the link between language, belief, and our actual bodily experience, that what we internalize truly matters physically.
And it crosses religious and philosophical lines, too.
Completely. It seems to be a very human way of trying to grasp and manipulate unseen forces, making the intangible tangible, bringing power from the outside inside.
So what should we be pondering after hearing all this?
Well, these ancient rituals, whether for justice like the bitter waters or for healing like drinking Quranic verses, they really force us to confront the immense power of human belief, of expectation, of fear.
Things we maybe underestimate today.
Perhaps they challenge us to see how deeply our minds, bodies, and spiritual beliefs are intertwined, even without clear scientific proof for how it works in these specific ancient contexts.
Yeah.
What does it tell us about ourselves? That we've always tried to harness these hidden forces, these internal states, to affect reality. And maybe think about how that impulse manifests today. Are there modern versions of drinking the words? What forms does the power of belief take in our lives now?
That's a fascinating thought to end on. How does that ancient impulse translate to the modern world? Lots to think about there.
Indeed.